Welcome everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar today on password management. I hope you liked the waiting room music. It was a little tribute to Eddie Van Halen. He certainly will be missed. So just to move on here, we hope that you find this informative, and by the end of the webinar today, you're going to have a greater appreciation as for why a password manager is so important. I'm not sure if all of you know, but October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and it's a collaboration between government and industry to raise awareness about the importance of cybersecurity and to ensure that everyone has resources they need to be safer and more secure online. So without further ado, I'll be your host today. Recent addition to BSC Solutions Group back in February of 2020, right when COVID started. Great timing. I have over 30 years experience in providing services and solutions to clients in the GTA. My background's actually in electronic technology, so I certainly understand the importance and need for technology and how the industry is continually evolving. Bill, our president and owner of BSC Solutions Group, also with over 30 years under his belt, providing managed IT services to organizations and businesses across the GTA. Bill has been a speaker at multiple industry events and as well as training events over the years, so he brings a wealth of knowledge with him today. And also just to note, we've been a Microsoft Silver partner since 1999. So kind of before we get into Bill's demo in a little bit, I wanted to go over some statistics on cyber crime out there. As you can see here, cyber criminals cost companies over $450 billion in 2018, and it's expected by 2021, it's going to be a $6 trillion business for these cyber criminals. As you can see, this is big business for them. And they're getting smarter at what they do. So at this point, I'm going to launch a little poll. I'm curious to know, how do you manage your passwords now? If everybody could kind of key in there and put their little vote in. Real curious to know how you do it now. There's many different options. Some people put it in paper format, believe it or not, Excel spreadsheet. Some people use web browser to store their passwords. So if everybody could sort of click in there, I'm going to give you a few seconds. It's looking like Excel or Word document is popular, 50% at this point. So I'm just going to give you a couple more seconds here, and then I'm going to end the polling. Looks like we got everybody in now. Okay, so I'm going to end the polling, and it looks like most of you are storing an Excel or Word document. So we're going to touch a little bit on that today as well, and then the rest looks like a majority also save in the web browser, which is quite popular. So I'm going to move on here. Thanks for doing that poll. And some more statistics for you. 70% of security breaches go undetected for up to 12 months. I'm not sure if you knew that. Once breached, many of these criminals lurk around in the network for some time until they can obtain as much information on you as they can before they potentially launch a ransomware or virus attack. When they lurk, they're looking for money people in the company. So they'll likely try to send them an email, which may look like it comes from a legitimate customer, to change bank information, or what we call phishing, for those of you that know what the phishing is out there. 90% of employees' passwords can be cracked in 6 hours or less. Organizations can spend millions of dollars in cybersecurity defenses and consultants. Beyond the traditional tools like firewalls, system information and event management, antivirus, it's easy to get caught up in the most sophisticated threat detection using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and user behavior and analytics. All of these tools are great and have their place and can be very valuable. However, one problem still kind of lurks and looms, and that is 81% of breaches are due to weak passwords. So, a simple changing the strength of your password can reduce the risk of a breach considerably, as you can see. Some other statistics: 70% of the workforce are digitally sharing their private information out there. 60% are not even concerned with corporate security. 50% use personal devices and apps at work. 45% change passwords only when requested. Passwords are frequently the only thing protecting confidential businesses' plans, intellectual property, communications, network access, employee census information, and customer data. Unfortunately, due to human error, negligence, and simple, basically lack of knowledge, passwords are also the weakest link in security. Attacking password issues head-on provides the maximum return on investment for security. I'd like to emphasize this other stat here. 80% reuse their passwords for multiple sites. This is one of the most common misuse of passwords. They've got 10 different websites, and well, I only want to remember one password, so I'll just use the same password for all sites. Definitely not something we like to see. We're only as secure as our weakest link, and if our passwords are weak, this leaves us open for an attack. So a recent study of 10 million passwords that were breached by hackers shows the common employee password practices are the greatest interior security threat in an organization. The top 25 most commonly used passwords listed here on the left, over 50% of the 10 million passwords analyzed were, were just bad passwords, but nearly 17% of them were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 alone. So incredible. People are using passwords of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hackers create and maintain a dictionary of lists. These passwords, and then use them when trying to break into a website, database, or service. They also know that more than 60% of people tend to use the same password on multiple websites, services, applications. So they run them across every account that they can find. And of course, if employees aren't using passwords on this list, they usually use birthdays, addresses, names of their pets, their favorite sports team, or any number of easy guessable combinations. It isn't their fault, really. It's impossible to remember strong, unique passwords for every account. So what does this pose? What problems does this pose? Really, problem one, no visibility or control over employee passwords. Having a group policy in our organization that has a minimum password length and uses special characters, caps, numbers is preferred. Even if you only have a written policy, there's no real control really to know if your employees are following the policy. So having a controlled group policy that built right into your network, it is best really, and it forces your employees to follow your policy for their Windows login screen. Problem two, the security adoption paradox. It tends to be the more complex you make something, the employees don't want to use it as they feel it's hard to manage. Well, we're here today to let you know that passwords can be strong and are not hard to manage if you use a password manager. So the one that we've partnered with is Keeper. It's a leading enterprise-grade cybersecurity platform for preventing password-related data breaches and cyber threats. We've partnered with them. We researched a bunch of different available managers in the marketplace, but really due to its ease of use and built-in security, we decided to partner with Keeper. Bill is going to do a demo for you on this product, and he's going to actually dig into it a little bit more. So really, once you start using a password manager, you'll wonder how you got by without it. I know when I started at BSC, I did not use a password manager. Then I started using one, and I really, with the amount of passwords that I have now, I just don't know how I would manage them without it. And with this particular product, you just have to remember one password, your master password. So without further ado, Bill, I'm going to pass things over to you, and Bill is going to go dig right into the product and do a demo for you.
Thanks, Bob. Just turned on my camera there. So let me go ahead and share my screen out, and I will share my browser. So what we're seeing here is Microsoft Edge is my browser. I've got it currently on the Keeper Security website, and I can log into the portal here from any browser. So Edge, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Opera, all the popular browsers. Each of the browsers also supports typically an extension or a plugin where I can also just log in here without actually having to go to the website. I'll go ahead here and log in through the website and walk you through that process. I'll show you some of the features that Keeper can help you use to secure your password. So as soon as I press next, it's got my email address pre-populated. It's asking me for a verification code. So I have turned on two-factor authentication. So if you're not familiar with that, I'm using an application on my phone, on my smartphone, that generates a new number every 30 seconds. Actually, it just changed. So I have to put in a new number here. So I looked that up on my phone and it accepted that number. Now it wants my, my master password. See if I got it right. There we go. So in order to log into the portal, I needed, to know three pieces of information. I needed my email address, my master password, which I make sure is quite complex and I don't use it anywhere else. And then also I have to look up on my phone a security code that changes every 30 seconds. So that makes it difficult for hackers to breach and get into your Keeper vault. The vault can be run on a number of different platforms. So there's vault software for, of course, Windows 10, Mac OS, iOS for your iPhones, Android phones, of course, Android tablets, and of course, iOS for iPads as well. So all of the popular operating systems. There's even Linux, a client for Linux. So really, there's pretty much all the popular devices and platforms are covered by Keeper. If the passwords are all decrypted and encrypted at the local device, so not up in the Keeper cloud. So everything takes place on your local computer or phone, and so if someone is going to breach those passwords or capture them, they're going to have to get on your device. There's settings we typically turn on. If someone fails to log into your device more than 4 times, we then have Keeper erase the local database. Of course, as soon as you log into the online vault again, that database will synchronize back down to you once you've properly validated your credentials.
Bill, a quick question here. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
MFA. Do you have to use MFA or two-factor authentication with Keeper?
You don't have to. We recommend it just to provide that additional layer of security so that you can try to protect your vault passwords, but it's not required.
Okay.
All right, so we'll run through a couple of the features here, and certainly, yes, if people have questions, by all means, you can raise your hand or type them into Q&A, and Bob can get my attention. I'm happy to answer your questions as we go along. So looking at the vault portal here, when we log in, you can see really the main thing I'm interested in is right here in the center of the screen. So this is my list of passwords. This is a demo account, so there's not a lot of passwords here. So I've got a number of folders that then have passwords underneath them. So if I expand on a folder, if I click on a folder, I will see the password listed below it. Okay, and there they are there. If I don't necessarily have to put my passwords in a folder, they could just be in the root. And so again, when I'm looking passwords up, if I know where they are, I can go and browse and expand the folder, or I could just come up to the search screen and start typing some portion of the content of that password website name or description that I might have created. So I'll type in here, say, Amazon, right? So there's AM. So that's picked this up, I guess, because I've got AM is in team here for technical team, and of course in Amazon. So if I carry on with the next A, it narrows it down to just this one password that matches for me. So it's very quick to find your password if you're looking for one. And the reason, you would look for a password here is if you wanted to launch a website from the browser portal. So there's really a number of ways that you can use the password manager and get to a website. So one would be to come down here, so here's the Amazon site, and I can click on that and I can choose launch. And that will launch it from there. I can launch it from this little icon over here. And of course, I can even go under options and launch from here. So there's 3 different places I can launch it from the browser. I could also come up here to my extension in my browser. And here I would just type, again, Amazon, start typing it, and it recognizes it. And I can click on the launch button, and it's going to go ahead and launch. So I'll give a demonstration of that, which I'm basically showing you 4 different ways I can launch a website. So I'll click on the launch button. It's going to open a new tab. It's logging me in. It's passed over my username. I'm waiting for it to pass my password. Needs a little help here, so I'll click on the little keeper icon. I see I've got a match here for this account. Again, I'll click the fill button, and then it signs me in. Okay, so pretty quickly and easily, taking me to that site. So again, I did that using the extension here. I could have also done it from here and clicked on launch, and again, this would open up a new tab and populate my login information for me. Okay, so very quick to help you to get to your websites that you want to reach. And it works really the same way on your smartphone. So if you have an iPhone or an Android phone, it's the same idea. You've got an application that runs on your phone. If you're being prompted for credentials, you typically use your biometrics, touch it with your finger or your face, and Keeper will then allow you to log into the Keeper application and populate the credentials on the other site. So I'm going to show you one more method that that we would potentially access a site. So let me go ahead here to Amazon, and I'm going to sign out. And so rather than using Keeper to launch and take me to the site, we'll assume here that I've just manually browsed to this site, and here I am, and I'm on the sign-in page. So from here, I'm going to click on the Keeper icon that appears in my username field, and I can see there's my, again, it's got a match for me. I can expand more if I want to read a little more to see if it's the right match. So I'll say go ahead and fill the username here, and then continue. And then I'm going to repeat that process for the password, and it'll sign me in. Okay, so different websites behave slightly differently depending on how their login process works. So with that one, it was a little bit manual where I had to kind of click on the Keeper icon in order to fill it. I would say for the majority of sites, they are not quite that manual even. They will, Keeper will recognize that I'm on a login screen and automatically populate the field and then advance to the next screen. So for many sites, you just simply go to the site, it highlights your credentials, you click fill, and it puts in the username, the password, and then logs you in. So it's quite seamless, all right? And if you're going to a site that you've never been to and you're creating new credentials, again, when you type in your username, typically your email address, Keeper will pop up with a menu detecting, hey, you're setting up a new credential. Do you want me to save this? And then it will actually prompt you to create a password and then save it and assign it to that account. So all very, very automated, very, very easy to use. All right. So in this case, I've organized. I've got Amazon under my shopping folder. If I look at some of my other folders, I've got home maintenance here with a different set of credentials. I'm going to take a peek here at the technical team. We've got a Twitter account. So in here, we could look at the history of this account and look at record history, and we can see it's version 1. I'm currently on. I can restore and go back to that previous version if I want. So this will keep a history of all of your previous passwords. If I want to keep my current password, I can, or if I want to restore my old password, I can go back to a previous password in case for some reason it didn't change properly, or some error has occurred. I can go back and see my history of passwords for that account. Okay. If you notice on this folder for the BSC technical team, we've got a little white sort of triangle there that's signifying that this is a shared folder. So if we take a look at this under users, I've just shared it to one user. So I've got it in my personal account right now that I'm using it, where I've created it, and then I've shared it to my business account. Okay, and this business user has the ability that they can manage the records within this folder. If I click on the folder permissions, I can specify what settings I want to assign to this shared folder. So, will these people be allowed to manage users? That would mean they could add other users to it or delete users. I don't want to do that. Am I going to allow them to manage records? Sure. They can create new records. They could edit existing records. They could delete them. Okay. And am I going to allow them to share these records with other people? No. So I'm going to let them control, have access to the records. They could update passwords and whatnot, but I'm not going to let them share them with other people or add other users. And so this is a great way for an organization to have, one or more people on your team that can control a set of passwords. An example would be, like Twitter, right? So it's not unusual that a business or an organization would have a Twitter account, and you may have more than one person possibly that you want to manage the content that you put up on Twitter, and you'd be able to share that out here and control these credentials that you're sharing with these users. Okay, there are security settings that we can apply on the back end where we even where we mask the password. So when you share these with other people, they won't even see what the password is. So they could click on it and they can launch Twitter and log into your corporate account, but they wouldn't actually see the Twitter password. It just gets passed over. Okay. We can, again, as far one of the benefits of Keeper, and the reason BSC has chosen it, is we are able to manage the back end on behalf of our clients. So we can work with you and review and put in recommended security settings. You can decide whether or not you're going to allow sharing of passwords outside of your organization. So it's certainly, it's common that you're going to share your passwords internally, but you might decide you don't want any password shared with anybody outside of your team. And so again, we can control that. We can turn that on or off. There's a lot of features we can enable or disable. Things like the MFA, right? So if we decide that as a corporation organization that you do want it to be required, we can turn that on and make it a requirement. So anybody logging into the vault will not be allowed to log in unless they have MFA enabled. Okay. You can, I see there's a question there for me, so let me.
Yep, I'm just going to open that up here.
How does this compare to OTKA? I don't know. You'd have to expand on what OTKA stands for, OTKA, what that acronym stands for. So again, very easy to share passwords. If we want to search, it's very easy to find them. If you look under our various edit options, we can take a look here. We'll see we got an answer here. So
it's a password management.
It's another password manager. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that product. There are quite a number of password managers on the product. Many of them are quite good. And I used to use previously. I've used a different password manager. Again, the one of the compelling reasons that we chose Keeper is as an IT organization, as a managed service provider, we're able to manage the back end for our clients. And so that was really important to us, and it's important to our clients because they're not IT people and they don't want to be burdened with trying to figure all of this out. And so one of the benefits of Keeper and the managed service program is when you have a new employee, we're able to provision them in Keeper and send them an invitation. There's a number of training videos and emails that follow on a schedule to them to slowly get them more up to speed on Keeper. If we have the ability again to manage all of the security settings on the back end, we can limit who has access to what. One of the other great benefits is that if you do have employees that leave, we are able to transfer their vault to another employee. So having said all that, even though we're managing the back end for your employees, at no point do we ever have access to anybody's passwords. So everybody's vault is their own vault. And so there's no way for us to break into your vault. Keeper cannot get into your vault. If you forget your master password, we can't help you. Like you must remember that master password. There is an option that you can reset your password, and it will send you a link to your email account that's associated with your vault. So again, we can help manage all of that. But if again you were to say, well, Mary's off sick today, the boss says, we really need access to her vault. I need access to her user account for Twitter. I can't help with that, right? Mary has control of that vault. She would have to be the one that shares out that information. However, if Mary left, I could transfer her vault to someone else, but she wouldn't necessarily want to do that just because she was off sick for one day. Okay.
Right. And I guess just to add to that, Bill, I think we also found that this particular program is very user friendly. I find when I started using it, it's just simple. It's very simple to use. So
Yeah. I mean, you know, Keeper. One of the things they discuss, they talk about is their simple interface. You know, so again, it's fairly straightforward. You've got folders here with records of passwords. That's it. If again, if you look at your options, you can see them from the drop-down menu. It's fairly self-explanatory. A lot of these. Okay, there is the delete option. So again, from a as a master managed service provider for the account, typically what we recommend is we would set any record that's been deleted to be saved for 365 days before it's purged. So again, if anybody has deleted records accidentally, it's very easy to recover them. And if you had an employee maybe that was leaving and maybe they did something malicious and they deleted all their records, again, we could just transfer their vault to someone else and it'd be easy to go through their deleted items. You can see them over here, deleted items, and then they could just recover any passwords that have been deleted in the past year. Okay. If we look at editing a record, we can we can give it whatever name we want. You've got your login name, which is typically an email address, and then your password. We can view it here. You can see it's quite complex. It's been auto-generated. You can generate new passwords by clicking on the dice, and that will then generate us a new password to use. We can decide how complex this password is going to be by using our slider as far as the number of characters. We can decide if it's going to have uppercase letters. So by default, it will have lowercase letters. We can decide if uppercase are included. We can decide if numbers are part of it or not, and whether special symbols are. So, you know, some sites you might go to and you're trying to create a password and you're trying to generate one, and 28 characters is too long. They might say, you know, no longer than 12 characters, and they might say no special symbols. So you could still choose then upper and lowercase letters and numbers. Okay.
So yeah, we had a question there which you answered about being able to generate your own passwords, which you can. The green bar that's underneath there, Bill,
Sure.
does that mean that it's a strong password?
It does, yeah. So again, if you're based on the password you're generating, the color coding will give you a bit of advice. So if we choose a simple password like dog, it's, you know, we get red here. It's not very good. So we can start to make it more complex. So it's still red because it's just letters and number, and you know, it's got a little more complex. Now it's yellow instead of red. We could add some numbers in there, and now it's happy. All right. So it's satisfied. Now I did that manually. Again, you know, it's very rare nowadays that I would manually create a password, almost never, you know, so I would always use the generator for me to generate a password. Okay.
So if you have it automatically generate a password, Bill, does it automatically generate that password on that website in question? How
Sure.
does that work?
Yeah, so if you were setting up a new account at weedguy.com, you know, when as you're creating your account, the menu pops up and it'll generate a password. If you don't like it, you hit the dice and it'll start again.
Okay.
All right, and then there's some additional fields here. So, you know, custom field, what this can be used for is you can add in additional matching websites. So, you know, sometimes you might have a site, you know, like let's say, I don't know for sure, but say Chapters Bookstore, right? So you could have, you know, chapters.com that has a set of credentials, but maybe they still have a URL for indigo.com, which is, you know, they bought Indigo, right? And but yet it's the same set of credentials or the same account. So you can list in here multiple websites that use the same credentials, you know, for that company, and then you don't have to have multiple records for them, and you won't end up with duplicate entries. Okay. You can even include in here files and photos. So again, if you wanted to store documents in here, the accounts typically come with 1 terabyte of shared space amongst the corporation or the organization. So if you've got specific files that are, you know, particularly have sensitive data in them, you might choose to store them in Keeper and then put them in a shared folder and make them accessible to your staff members and your team members in that manner. That'd be one way to do it. That would make them accessible, you know, over the internet as well. Okay. And then you can add in your own notes. You can add in your own two-factor authentication code right in Keeper. You know, it gets a little bit tricky. We don't really do that or recommend it too often. We typically suggest you use your mobile phone, and then it's a separate physical device. Where this would be useful, though, is again, maybe if you had Twitter that you were sharing the credentials with other team members, it's hard then to have MFA on multiple different phones. So again, you could set up Twitter in here, you could share it to 3 or 4 people, and you could add in your two-factor authentication code for Twitter, and then anybody wanting to log into Twitter would have all that information here, including the fact that they would have MFA or two-factor authentication turned on for Twitter. So
So I guess
quite
the
a
real
quite a
benefit of
benefit.
MFA, Bill, is, you know, if they have your credentials, your login, and your password, really they can't get into your website or whatever site you're trying to get into without that MFA code, which only will be sent to you on your cell phone. So it's just an added
Right.
level of security.
Sure, and if Office 365 is of course quite popular nowadays, and Microsoft has MFA available for all Office 365 accounts, and so our experience and their experience has been that for accounts that turn on MFA, their breach record or percentage drops by 99%. So really for Office 365, when MFA is enabled, breaches are non-existent on those accounts.
Okay.
All right. So there's a quick look through the vault. If we take a look at some of the other choices here on our portal, we've got identity and payment. So again, in the identity, this would be for you to have information that you're going to use when you're populating various forms or fields on the web. So we've all registered for webinars, and you're asked for maybe company information, first name, last name, email. So this is a way of having a form with that information in it that makes it faster for you to populate those online forms. You can have payment cards in here. So I've just got a fake credit card here. So you can put your credit card in here with all of your proper information. And again, if you're purchasing items online, you can use this to quickly populate the purchase field and fill in the credit card information.
Excellent.
Security audit is essentially a score for your vault. We'll show you when we're done the demo here. You can actually there's a security audit and a breach watch portal or dashboard for your entire account, your entire organization, not just individuals. So in here, I can see on my account, I've only got 6 passwords created. 2 of them have been reused. Okay, I can see the strength of my different passwords here. So some of them are not too strong. If I click on one, it tells me exactly what the problem is. So this is considered a high-risk password. If we look at what the password is, it's password 123. So
I think that was in the list of top 25, Bill.
You got it. So there's the problem. So if you click on resolve, it kind of tells you what you need to do. They're saying that this password, this vault contains a password that was reported in a breach. They suggest you change the password at the affected site and then update your record in the vault. So this isn't necessarily telling you that this exact demo Adobe account with bill@rogers.com and this password has been found in a breach, but it's telling me that this password has been found in a breach. So someone else has used this password on the internet, and so it's a known password in a breach. So basically it's in the database of known passwords. And so whenever these bad actors are trying to hack into, say, your Office 365 account, they'll often try to do a brute force attack, and they will use a dictionary or a database of known passwords to try to breach your account. So you want to try to avoid using known passwords. All right. So again, you would have to go to this site, and so I would launch my adobe.com. I would log in with these credentials, and then on the Adobe website, I would change my password, and Keeper would then get updated with that new password. We can click on a couple of others. So this one here, again, it's this one's telling me this is going to be one of my duplicates, I think. So if we click on reused, we'll see there's my 2 reused passwords. So Disney and Adobe are 2 of the reused passwords. And then these others, it's just telling me that this is not a great password. It's not super weak, but it's not super strong. They recommend I change it. And again, these are duplicates. Okay, so this would be a good way for any users to get a sense of what they need to work on in their database. So typically when you first start off, you're going to import your passwords often from your browser. You can certainly import from a spreadsheet. So Keeper has a template that you copy and paste your passwords into in the appropriate format. So if you have an Excel already, we can usually tweak that and import it. And then once you get it imported, then you take a look at your security audit, and it's going to identify, we've seen people that have 50, 60, 100 passwords that are reused, right? In other words, it's one password, but it's been reused 50 or 60 times, right? So it can be a little bit of time you're gonna have to put aside to maybe do some cleanup and go to some of your important websites and update your passwords.
Especially banking.
Sure. Anything banking or where they might have your credit card, those, that's obviously where you want to start. And, clearly too, like things like CRA with your tax account. Okay. So then the breach watch, if we take a look at the breach watch, again, it's telling me here that I've got 2 passwords that have been found on the dark web, and they're recommending that I resolve these as soon as possible. Okay, so if I go, I could come into here, I could go resolve, I could decide I'm not going to resolve it, I'm going to ignore it. Okay, and now I'm down to only 1 that has a problem. So that was my decision to ignore it. Now, was I just being lazy and reckless, or is there a specific reason maybe that I can't update that password? An example would be air miles. So lots of, I have an Air Miles card. Many people have Air Miles cards. And so one of the issues with Air Miles is your PIN is a 4-digit numeric number. That's it. Very weak. So Air Miles really needs to fix that. And so almost everybody who's got an Air Miles card, it's going to show up as the fact that that's a high risk password that's been found on the dark web. Yeah, but I can't do anything about it because Air Miles only supports a 4-digit numeric password, so I can't change it. So in that case, you would ignore it. Okay.
So speaking of passwords, Bill, got a question here. Do you change your master password on a regular basis? So as we had mentioned that we only need to remember 1 password for Keeper, do we really need to change that password?
It's probably a good habit to at least change it maybe once a year. Okay, so, but no, I wouldn't go out of my way to be changing it every month or so. I mean, the prevailing attitude on password changes is changing. It used to be that businesses and people were encouraged to change their passwords at a regular interval, maybe as much as every 30 days. The problem with that is that it's found that most people, when they do that, they really, they just add a 1 or a 2 to the end of the password. So they really are just using the same password for years, and they just simply pad it with a new number at the end. So this idea of forcing them to change it regularly isn't really very effective. So instead, the recommendation now is to choose a really good password and then keep it for a long period and change it maybe from time to time, so potentially once a year. Typically good passwords are phrases of words. So and maybe again not even necessarily associated words. So you could use an associated set of words like the sky is blue. That's it's good. It's not great. You could instead use sky, night, moon, sun. And that's a little better password. And then maybe you throw a capital in there somewhere and a number or a special character. And so I would be confident with keeping that password for a longer period of time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to just look at my notes here to see if I've covered everything. I covered logging in from the vault, MFA, and breach watch. So Bob, I think that's kind of a quick run through of the high level of features within Keeper.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you, Bill. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now, and it'll end up stopping yours. But hopefully everybody can see this screen. Everybody see that there? The security audit score. So Bill touched on this. This was basically your overall organization's security audit score. So maybe you could touch on this a little bit, Bill.
Sure. So again, if we look at this score, I mean the challenge is that neither we nor Keeper can actually see people's passwords. So again, you might ask, well, how can we score them? So Keeper builds what's called a hash. So they'll take a password and they'll do a mathematical algorithm to come up with an alphanumeric number that correlates to that password, but it doesn't necessarily tell them what the password is. And then they take that hash and they compare it to hashes of all the passwords that they're finding out on the dark web. And if they find hashes that match, that tells them that they've either found a matching password or one that's very close. And so that's how they're doing their comparison. Although again, Keeper is pulling it from the vaults anonymously, so even they don't know which vault the hash is from. It's all taking place in the back end. So they're comparing these hashes, and then they come back and give you a score as far as the strength of your password and whether or not they've found your hash matching elsewhere. Actually, we'll see the matching hashes on the next Breach Watch report. So this is just more the strength of the passwords. Everything on this report looks okay, other than this top user. I'm not very happy that they've got 48 reused passwords.
Sounds like they need a talking to.
Yeah, they're going to get a smackdown. But they might have a reason. There might be a reason. Maybe, maybe if it's a technical person, maybe that's just they manage a bunch of devices and the devices are all private but have the same password and they're not exposed. Okay, maybe there's a reason. So I wouldn't necessarily right away say it's a problem, but I'd say it's worth at least sending an email, a report to this employee and saying, hey, what gives here? What's going on, right? So the rest of the employees, not too bad. We've got pretty low counts of reused passwords. Over here under weak passwords, pretty low counts, okay, and medium are pretty low. So most of the users in this report have unique and strong passwords, and they all have 2FA turned on.
Excellent. All right, moving to our next screen here. If you could just go to the audit of password strength. If you could just explain this a little bit.
So again, with the Breach Watch, so this is the comparison of your passwords to what's been found on the dark web. So again, if we look through the user list here, you can see the number of the passwords that have a passing score for each person versus the number that are failed. So again, it's not bad. I mean, this person has 8 that are ignored and 5 that are at risk. So still 13 out of 235. That's a pretty low ratio. So it still maybe is worth reviewing this on a periodic basis, and again sending an email to the staff and just saying, hey, I noticed you've got 7 at-risk passwords. Could you please take a few minutes and just review them and see if any of them can be remedied?
Okay. I have a question here. Can it be set up so that one person can have access to all employee passwords?
I don't think that we could do that from a back-end management perspective. I mean, all we could do is the employees could be told that they must put their passwords in folders and they must share them with their manager. But I don't think that we could actually control that. No, the employees could potentially put the passwords in a different folder that we wouldn't have access to. Now, again, if for some reason there was a problem with that employee or they left, we can transfer that vault to the manager, or we could potentially reset the password to that vault and then the manager could log into it.
Okay, thank you for that. So just moving on, I come to our next part here is kind of what's the next step here. And I've mentioned this before. Once you start using a password manager, which happened to me back in February, you'll wonder really how you got by without it. So some next steps. I think at minimum, you heard us talk about having a company policy. So I think the one thing that everyone can do from watching this webinar is change your company policy to make it mandatory for all your employees to have a strong, complex password. This can be done through a written policy, but then you run the risk of employees not following the written policy. But also you could do this group policy through the network. So this would force employees to change their password to meet your company's password policies. Example, 15 to 21 characters, upper, lower case, numbers, special symbols, but that would be for the Windows login. So for the Windows login, it would force them to have a strong password. So remember that this step you can take right now is, remember, 81% of breaches are due to weak passwords. So just simply doing that one step can significantly reduce your risk. Secondly, implement a password manager in your company to make it easier for all your employees to manage their passwords, so that they only have to remember one master password. And thirdly, BSC Solutions can certainly help implementing a password manager for your company. However, the product is very intuitive, so it really is fairly easy to use. Questions. This comes to our Q&A period. So if anybody has any Q&A questions, now's the time to ask. I do have some here in the list, Bill.
Sure.
Let's see, our first one. Oh, if we use biometrics on our cell phone, fingerprint, which is for anybody that's not aware of biometrics, why do we need a password manager?
Well, the biometrics really just protects the physical access to that phone. Your most password breaches are not getting breached on the physical phone. They're getting breached over the internet, and so the biometrics isn't really going to stop that.
I see. Okay.
But as I talked about earlier, we would certainly recommend you use the biometrics on your phone, and you can use that to restrict your access to your Keeper password manager. So again, anybody using your phone wouldn't be able to open the Keeper without the biometrics.
Right. But of course, if they got into your phone, they could then launch your browser. And if you record all your passwords in your browser, they have access to all your passwords.
Right. But that's more of an issue of someone, physically getting access to a piece of equipment.
Correct. Correct. Okay. Another question here. If we use a password manager, how do we know if the program we're using is secure itself? So how do we know Keeper is secure?
Well, I mean, on their website, they do list all of the security measures that they've put in place. There are third-party reviews that often take place of password managers, and there are some of Keeper where independent organizations have reviewed them and quantified how secure they are. If you're using a different password manager, I would expect that they would have something similar in place.
Okay. All right. We talked about storing passwords in the web browser. Is that secure, storing a password in a web browser?
Firefox isn't too bad as long as you turn on the sort of their vault where you have to enter a password in order to unlock your passwords. I don't know that the other browsers have that feature. So I know, we're an IT organization, and so often we have to help people with their password resets and whatnot in their browser. And so if you're using things like IE or Chrome or Edge, it's not uncommon that we help people recover their passwords, and it takes us 30 seconds. It's not hard. It's not hard for us to get them.
Okay. Okay. I know we did touch on this one a little bit here. And what happens if an employee leaves the company? How is their password manager account converted or suspended? And of course, we with Keeper, I believe they offer, if you subscribe as a company, you get the free password manager for the employee personally. So they would get a personal account as well. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So, well, there's two areas there. So as far as, again, if an employee leaves, we could either, reset their master password, and the email would be sent to that employee's email address, which, assuming now somebody else is monitoring, they could reset it and log into the vault and take a look at it. We could also simply transfer that employee's vault to another employee within the organization. Okay. And so, sorry, Paul, what was the second half of the question there?
Well, it was just, I know
the personal
Keeper,
email. Yes.
Yeah.
So with any of these corporate accounts that BSC is offering, every employee would get a free Keeper personal account. All right. So again, that could be their account at Gmail or Outlook.com, Yahoo or Hotmail. And so with the personal accounts, of course, again, what happens if that employee leaves the organization? Are they going to lose all their personal vault information? The answer is no. That information then they could contact Keeper, and Keeper could be they could then basically transition their personal account to just be direct with Keeper, and they'd have to start paying Keeper direct for that. Okay,
thanks for that. And looks like just got one other question here. Is a password manager expensive, or is Keeper expensive?
Well, there's two versions that we're providing. So one is the Keeper Business Basic, or that we're offering. It's around $6 a month per user, and the advanced version is $9 a month per user. The advanced version includes the breach watch and alerts and reporting.
Okay, all right. So moving on, this comes to our free bonus offer for everybody out there. We are offering a 30-day activation of user license for up to 5 users in your company. And this would be the advanced plan that Bill touched on. There's usually setup fees. I don't know why that happened. Usually setup fees per user, so that would be waived. There's no obligation to purchase the product following the free promotion. But again, I'm pretty sure once you start using a password manager, you're going to want to keep using it. And that would involve some initial training for you as well. So that's a free bonus and gift that we put out to everyone that's attending our webinar today. Certainly we have some, our contact information is on this page here. And also just everybody is going to receive a email follow-up with a link to the recording of the webinar. All of our contact information will be there. And you know, certainly we hope that you learned a few things today. We appreciate you attending. And unless there was any other final questions, I don't see anything. Bill, anything to add, Bill?
No, I'm good. Thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you so much, and stay safe and keep smiling. Thank you.